Yep. So I'm Galen, PhD candidate at the University of Idaho, and I'm going to be talking today about assessing crop, the impacts of crop and nutrient management practices on long-term water quality and quantity within a dairy-intensive agricultural region using the SWAT model. Cool. So just to give you a little bit of a background first, dairy agriculture in the state of Idaho has grown quite a lot over the past 30 years. A quick little graph here, or something for you guys to see. So this is for the Magic Valley just specifically. From 1992, there were 100,000 dairy cows in the Magic Valley, which is basically the center of the dairy industry in Idaho. And in the 2022 Ag Census, that region had 500,000 cows. Um, and the dairy industry is really important for Idaho. We're currently third-ish, fourth, if not for Texas, in the nation for dairy. And it has generated on a yearly basis 10.7. I think for 2024 is actually over $11 billion in sales. So quite a lot of revenue is generated from dairy in the state. And the total number of dairy cows in Idaho is 718,000. So 500,000 of the 718,000 dairy cows in Idaho being in the Magic Valley kind of gives you an idea of how important the Magic Valley is for that industry. So why does this matter? So it matters because if you have a lot of cows in a pretty small area, it could lead to nutrient management concerns with manure. This is some data I pulled from a research paper by April Latham, who's a USDA ARS researcher. So if lactating cows excrete 409 grams of nitrogen per day, 74 grams of phosphorus per day, and dry cows are 170 grams of nitrogen and 24 grams of phosphorus. You can do some math here, and you can see that there's about 186,000 kilograms of nitrogen are produced in the Magic Valley per day, and 33,000 kilograms of phosphorus per day. And the total amount of cropland is around 400 acres. Spread completely about 141 kilograms of nitrogen per year and kilograms per hectare of phosphorus per year. But that's not actually what happens. Dairy manure is spread evenly across all cropland in the Magic Valley. It's spread mainly to the areas around dairy farms. It gets less as you move away from the dairy, depending on the farmers that want to use it. And so the reason that this matters is if you apply manure to fields in excess of what's removed by the crops, you can have water quality concerns. These are just some headlines I pulled from water quality things that are going on in the Snake River. And also if soil phosphorus, it can impact soil health with salts. And also if you have soil phosphorus levels get too high, then you can lead to some difficulties in plants absorbing micronutrients. So the model that I used for this research is the SWAT model. Just to go over it really briefly, it's a watershed scale, physically based hydrologic model. It was developed in the 1990s and continuously improved since then. It allows for the modification of management practices and irrigation practices. And it's a very widely used model. Since 2020, there's been about 2,440 scientific papers published using the model. And so for my first research question, I wanted to look at changes in land cover in the Magic Valley, specifically just looking at Twin Falls County, which you can see there that doesn't have the sort of white background. And then the black area there is the Twin Falls Canal Company, which some of you may have seen in the tour yesterday. The irrigated area in the Twin Falls Canal Company accounts for the majority of the irrigated area in Twin Falls County, which you can see there. So basically, in 1992, before dairies, um, dairy really took off in the Magic Valley. Um, those were the crops, the different crops, the acreages of crops that were grown. And then it's changed a lot since then in 2022. You can see that alone corn silage has grown quite a lot. There's about 175 more square kilometers of corn silage grown now than in 1992. And because this is an irrigated landscape, if you're growing one crop, you have to get rid of another crop. That's just how, because of water rights, there's only so much area that can be irrigated. And beans, in this case, are the main crop that changed. There's also been some increase in alfalfa and barley, with decreases in wheat, sugar beet, and potatoes. And here you can see the different irrigation seasons for the crops. The earliest can be irrigated is April 15th. No irrigation is really going on before then. And then some of them can go until October. So seeing that beans, which is irrigation season, were being replaced by corn silage, which has a longer irrigation season, I was wondering if consumptive use may be changed. That I wanted to do was 1992 land cover. I ran the model for years, along with a 2-year warm-up period, typically with watershed models. And the irrigation season and adjusting calibrated for each of the crops. And I applied 9.1 millimeters of water when soil water dropped about 5 millimeters. And these are the two different, for the 1992 scenario and 2022 scenario, these are the percentages of each crop I did. It's not exactly the same as the Twin Falls County census, but pretty close. And then to look at some of the results from this, for irrigation, compared to the 1992 scenario, the model found that irrigation increased about 12% on average. Going over to evapotranspiration, this increased about 8% on average. And then percolation increased about 18%. And most of the percolation is occurring during the irrigation season because it's a semi-arid landscape that receives about 11 inches of rainfall a year. So most of the percolation that's going to be happening is going to be due to like excess irrigation and not rainfall. And this is backed up. This data is backed up somewhat in reality. So this is evapotranspiration for the Twin Falls Canal Company for different months, going from 1985 to 2025, where I had data. And it is increasing in September and August and July, and June is pretty flat. There's a lot of variability in ET each year, but it does show that ET is probably going up, at least in some of the months. And then the story of percolation is also pretty interesting because there is percolation going on. Quantifying the exact amount is really difficult because there's different irrigation amounts for different crops in the canal company, and we don't know exactly how much people are irrigating every single time they do it. But this is Cedar Draw, which is a return flow stream. Prior to the Falls Canal Company project, it was an ephemeral stream. It did not flow all year. And now it does because there's percolation water outside of the irrigation season. So you can see really distinctly where irrigation cuts off, where the canals stop flowing here, and then all of this is water that is percolated that's returning as base flow. So I wanted to look at replication, soil health, and water quality. And this goes back to data that I have, that there's about 52 manure that's applied to feed. And I wanted to see the effects that this could potentially be having on soil nutrients and losses from fields. So the modeling plan here, I did 2 scenarios, micrograms per hectare and one at 26. And 2 computations, the first being 3 years of corn silage, followed by potato, sugar beet, and wheat. And the other is 5 years of corn silage, followed by 4 years of alfalfa. The alfalfa has a little asterisk on it because I didn't apply manure to the alfalfa, which is commonly, practice is usually done. Sometimes dairy farmers will apply manure the first year of alfalfa to account for the nutrient needs for the 4 years or 3 years that they have it. But in this case, I did not apply manure to alfalfa. And I again ran the model for 18 years with the 2-year warm-up period, and used the same irrigation scenario. So for this, looking at nitrogen, I found that with the corn silage potato sugar beet wheat rotation, it had the most nutrient leaching, which for the 52 megagram per hectare was around 197 kilograms per hectare of nitrate leached each year, which is quite a lot. At the 26, it went down to 114, and then the corn alfalfa rotation had the least amount. Here, the other graph is showing nitrogen mineralization for the corn, potato, sugar beet, wheat rotation. And their nitrogen mineralization is pretty high, starting off around 200 to 250, and then going up to over 300 for the rest of the model run. And then um, with respect to phosphorus, these are the phosphorus levels in shallow and deep soils for the two crop rotations, the potato, sugar beet, wheat on the left, and then corn, silage, and alfalfa on the right. And they increase a lot faster for the model run where I'm applying manure every year, of course. And then the lines that you see there are the index lines, which is a system that allows used to manage phosphorus. With the line, when their soil phosphorus levels go above the green, then they need to test the manure for nutrients. If it's above the yellow, they're supposed to apply half the amount of nutrients that the crops need for manure. And if it goes, then they cannot apply manure anymore. And cases it didn't go up, but it is continuously increasing every year. It's concerning because it means that eventually it will probably become even for the alpha rotation, uh, still increasing. So in terms of some takeaways, dairy agriculture, at least for the Twin Falls Canal Company, can lengthen irrigation season more water use than ET. Yearly manure applications will cause continuous increases in soil phosphorus and potentially excessive nitrogen leaching. Not applying manure to alfalfas actually seems to be a pretty good way to manage soil phosphorus level increases, at least slow them down. It's still increasing slowly over time, but it slows it down quite a lot. And really, one takeaway that I found with this is that spreading manure or compost to more fields and also testing your manure, because manure nutrient concentrations can vary quite a lot, as we all probably know and have seen in other presentations. In this case, I used an average of 12 different manures from the Magic Valley that were used in a couple of research studies. But really knowing the nutrient content of the manure and spreading it to more fields, getting more farmers to adopt the spreading of manure and using that instead of synthetic fertilizers is a good way to protect soil health in the Magic Valley. So with that, I want to say thank you and acknowledge some of the USDA ARS people that helped me with this research and supplied me with data. So yeah, thanks.